Hello everybody, my name is Kate Olaf and welcome to my channel. Yes, I do wear glasses. I do wear contacts most of the time, however it's really late while I'm filming this and my eyes are tired. So I put on my glasses because today I'm actually going to be showing you guys how to analyze a rental property. This is the same process that I use to buy my triplex, so I figured it'd be really cool to kind of dive in and show you how you too can analyze a rental property. So without further ado, let's jump to the computer and I'm just going to be walking you through step by step how I do this. So as you can see, I'm actually on a feed here that I personally use. It's a feed that brings in all multifamily houses within a specified zip code that I've set for myself. So if you are not an agent and don't have the ability to go on the MLS, which is what I'm on, then you can use Zillow, Realtor.com, something like that. But you're still going to do the same exact thing that I'm going to show you. So we're going to start off with multifamilies because if you're looking in the rental property business, then multifamily is probably what you're going to be doing. And that's what I did. So we're going to go literally with the first property that comes up. This is 120 West University Boulevard. It's in 85705. Which is a pretty decent zip code. So one of the first things that we are going to do is we're going to come to my spreadsheet here. Now there's a lot going on, however I don't want you to focus on that. That's not the point. These are a bunch of properties I've done before. I like to start out with the MLS number. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, copy my MLS number. This is just makes it easier for me to go back and search it up later. For you, if you don't have access to the MLS, you can actually just use the address. So we're going to go back here, we're going to copy the address. Alright, and then I like to put the status of them because I go back and change them. So right now, as you can see, it's currently active on the market. So we're going to put active here. Now, I also like to record the quality of the property. This is just basically, I go to the photos and I personally decide whether the quality of the house is good, bad, or great. And these are pretty crappy pictures, which you might deal with a lot. But basically, you want to go and actually physically see the pictures if you can. It looks like it might have had some updates. Looks like concrete floors, decent countertops, nice ceiling height. Ooh, one thing I'd like to point out, when you look at pictures of houses, look at the roof. That's a big key you want to look at. If the roof is all in shingles and it's crappy, that's something you want to take note of. Not that you can't buy it, you just want to make sure what you're getting into. So this looks like the back unit now. Hardwood floors. It's definitely old, but it's not terrible. So with this one, I'd probably put good. I'd probably put good quality because overall it's not terrible. Like if someone really had to move in, they could, but you could also put some money into it too. So right here, I'm just gonna record good. I have them color coded. You don't need to get that fancy. And then here I'm gonna put in the property type. So as you can see, there's a lot of multifamilies. I think this was a duplex. Let me go back to the detail. Yeah, so you can see up here, it's a duplex, and it is a two bedroom, 1 bath. So you have 1 bedroom, 1 bath. So we're gonna come back here and we're gonna record that. This property up here was already that, so I'm just gonna drag it down and change that to a 1. Now this is where we get into some numbers here. As you can see, we are recording the rent by the unit. So we're going to come back, and if they don't have it recorded, you're going to have to use a tool called Rentometer, where you can look up the address, put in a rent you think it could rent for, the bed, the bath, and then analyze and then see how good it is. So I'll show it to you, for example. So this address here is 120 West Boulevard. It's a 2-bedroom, 1 bath, and they're renting for about $900. So we'll put this in here. We'll put 900, 2-bed, 1 bath. Let's analyze it. Let's see if they're on the money or not. So they actually look a little low. You can see that the average in that area is $1,100, and the median's right over 1,000, around 1,100 as well. So the rent is a little cheap on this property. So we need to take that into consideration when we record our rent by the unit. So I just know from seeing it that the front unit was going for $890 currently, and the back unit was going for $900. Again, because this might be on Zillow or something as well, but you want to check if it's being currently rented out. So I'm going to go here in the property description, actually the agent only remarks here, which I get access because I have the MLS, but do not disturb the tenant. So there are tenants in place, so you need to take that into consideration. Now, we come into the asking price, which is basically just the listing price, and they're listing at $325. Okay, so we're going to come back in and we're going to plug that in, $325. GSR is your gross scheduled rent. Okay, so all gross scheduled rent means is all the rent that you're going to bring in for 1 full year. So that's where our calculator comes in, and you can see here that unit 1 brings in $890 a month, unit 2 brings in $900 a month. So we're going to add those up, and we get $1,790 per month, and then we're going to multiply that by 12 months in a year. So our gross scheduled rent is $21,480 a year. Now, I have my calculators running at an FHA down payment, which is 3.5% down. For the sake of this video, I'm just going to keep that, but if you're going to go a traditional 20% down, 10% down, you need to adjust this accordingly. So for the FHA down payment, I already have the code, as you can see up here, calculated out, so all I have to do is bring it down. But let's take a look at this code and see what we're actually calculating. So if you see, it's G258, so that's this asking price. I'm sorry, this is the cell above it, but basically it's going to grab this one when we bring it down. So let's bring it down and see what it's pulling. So as you can see, G259, which is this cell here, the asking price, multiplied by 3.5%. So all it's doing is calculating what 3.5% down would be at this asking price, which is $11,375. So using the FHA with the 3.5% down, we can estimate that we're gonna have to bring down, or we're gonna have to put down $11,000. Now we're gonna bring our loan amount, which again is already calculated for us, considering we bring the down payment. As you can see, we would be getting a loan for $313,625. That's because we put down $11,000 of our own money. So then we actually only need to get a loan for $313,000, not the full $325, because we already put $11,000 down. I hope that makes sense. Here I just run the interest rate at a basic 3.5%. So the interest rate we're going to get on our loan I run a 3.5 right now just because it's kind of basic and it's kind of high. I locked in at a 2.5, so that's 1% less, which is really good. But just for calculating sake, I like to run at a 3.5%. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this $313,625 loan amount. We're going to plug it into a calculator. Now, I'm doing all of this on a spreadsheet, but take note, you can do this all online. You just have to look up rental property calculator and all of these things will come up. So let's check that again. $313,625 is my loan amount. I had an interest rate of 3.5%. I'm going to estimate that we're going to do a 30-year loan. And I'm going to have a monthly payment of $1,400, around $1,400. So $1,408.32. $1,408.32. Okay, so that's our mortgage payment. Alright, so now we have to consider utilities, which if we come here, yeah, usually the expenses aren't filled out for us, so we can just assume if it's on separate meters that the tenant will pay for utilities. So let's just assume that the tenant's going to pay utilities. We have to now calculate our operating expenses. That's why this portion of my graph is all red, because it's calculating operating expenses now that we have to pay to maintain our property. So property management, as you can see, the 0.1 here is just 10% of the gross rent divided by 12. So based on your rents, are you going to get this number here for property management, for vacancy, for repairs, and for CapEx? All of these costs here are based on your gross rent, okay? I think all of them are 10% of the rent besides CapEx. I think I run at 5%. So you can do whatever you feel comfortable, do your research and see what, most people do. I think that the 10 and the 5 are pretty solid, and I think that's what most people do. So what you're gonna wanna do is calculate all of these. Again, I already have them calculated so I can pull and drag. But you can see here that our sum of all of these, just the CapEx, the repairs, the vacancy, and the property management, is going to be about $626.50 a month. Okay, so these are costs you need to consider when buying a multifamily property, an investment property. You don't just calculate your mortgage, okay, because you do have other costs that you need to save for. And then we get to taxes and insurance. Okay, so your taxes, we can go back to the listing here and we can see that the taxes are $1,290 a year. So we go back to our trusty calculator, we divide it by 12, that's $107.50 per month. And our insurance. The insurance is going to vary depending on who you use. So these people, it shows they pay $600 a year. So we're gonna have to do, I think it's 50. Oh, excuse me, I think it's 50, but just to be sure. Oh no, it's not 50. What am I talking about? Oh yeah, it is. Let's go. I've done this so many times, the numbers kind of get mixed up. So that's $50 for the insurance. Now, we need to calculate all of our operating expenses in total per month that it's going to take to manage this property. So again, I just want to go through it so you're aware of why you're paying these things and why you need to consider them. We have our mortgage payment here. Our mortgage payment is the payment we are giving back to the bank or the lender that we lent money from. Okay, so that's big. Our property management, if you are not going to live in the property, then you're probably going to pay a property management fee unless you want to manage it yourself, or if you live in the property like I do, you kind of just manage the place on your own. Typically, property managers cost around 10% of the gross rent per month. Okay, so this comes out to $179 per month. Vacancy, this is a vacancy budget you're going to set up, and we run this at 10% of gross rent as well, so it's going to match our property management. this budget is specifically for any vacancies that are unexpected. You have money set aside to pay for that without having to come out of pocket. Repairs is self-explanatory. It's just a repair fund for anything on the property. That's again 10% matching our vacancy and property management. And then we have our CapEx, which is just also a repair fund, but for bigger items such as like a roof or new appliances. This is actually a fund designated for a longer period of time. So we do about 5% for this fund of the gross rent, which is half of the 179. And then taxes, every property is going to have property taxes that you have to pay Uncle Sam. So depending on the property, usually if it's in a nicer area or more congested area, the higher your property taxes are going to be because the real estate's more expensive, so the taxes are higher. The farther out you go from the city or like downtown, you have just some vacant land, then it's going to be a little cheaper on the property taxes side. And then insurance is just mandatory in order to get a loan. So you're going to pay insurance, homeowners insurance on a property in case there's a huge, fire or God forbid a flood or something like crazy like that. You have insurance to back the property up. And that kind of depends on the company you use. So, some can be more expensive, some can be less. It really just depends on the company you use, so you can shop around. So now we have all our operating expenses here. Now we have to calculate how much total are we going to be paying a month in operating expenses. So you can see here we're going to be paying $2,192.32 a month just in operating expenses to manage this whole thing. So now you want to take your operating expenses per month and your gross scheduled rent per month, and you want to subtract them from each other to see how much cash flow you're going to have per month to see if this is going to be a good deal. So when we pull this down, it shows we're going to be negative $400.32 per month if we bought this property at this price and left rents the way they were. So with that being said, we can start looking at some interesting data as far as our NOI, which is our net operating income for the year, which all of this is going to be, just so you know, the net operating income does not include your mortgage payment, so that's why it's not negative. NOI does not include your mortgage payment. Take note of that. Your pre-tax cash flow, that's just your yearly cash flow. You can see we're obviously negative because we're negative each month, so throughout the year we're going to be in the hole. Our return on investment, our cash on cash return, we're also a negative percentage, and our cap rate is at 3.71, which is pretty bad. So these numbers don't necessarily make or break a deal. However, you don't want to be cash flow negative for too long if you can't upgrade the property anyway, raise the rents. So make sure you do your due diligence. So that's how I analyze a rental property. Now, if we go, if we go over here, remember how we said that we looked up on Rentometer and it said that some of the stuff in that area was renting for about $1,100. That was kind of the median. So what I would do in that case is I would then run some more numbers right below this. And again, your spreadsheet doesn't have to look like this. This can all be done on a piece of paper or a rental property calculator online. So what you're going to do is we are now going to change this to 1,100. And we're going to change unit 2 to 1,100 because I both believe they were the same square footage, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so they're the same square footage, so they should be able to rent for about the same. They're both in decent condition. So we've changed our rents to both 1,100. So what would this property look like if we could rent both units for 1,100 instead of 900? I'd like to mention that when you're doing when you're researching properties like this, you always want to ask, how can you make a deal happen, instead of just running a couple numbers and saying, oh, I can't do this. There's a lot of factors that go into it, not just these numbers. This just gives you a good basis overall feel of, you know, how this property would benefit you if you went after it. So let's go to asking price. Let's see. One of the things I like to do with asking price, the market's crazy right now, so to try and get anything lower than what it's listed for is probably not too common. But let's just say we know the seller somehow, and they really like us, they want to sell to us, and so we get it for an even $300,000. So let's just say the fantasy land that happens. So now what you're going to notice is our gross scheduled rent has to change because we just upped all the rent. So now we're actually going to be 1,100 times 2, so we're going to be making $2,200 a month gross, and then we need to multiply that times 12, and we get $26,400 a year in gross scheduled rent. So now let's say we're still going to do the FHA program. I'm just going to bring this down to hurry up the process. And now we have a cheaper loan because we bought it for less. So now we only have to put down about 10.5K. We have to put down less, and we're also making more money. So now let's run this number, $289,500. Again, this is our loan amount that we have to pay the bank, the lender. So $289,500. And what do we get per month? $1,299.98. So $1,299.98 is our mortgage payment per month. Okay, so it's about $100 cheaper than what we were paying before. So now we're going to go and see our operating expenses, the fun part. So property management, again, is your 10%. Your vacancy is 10% of the gross scheduled rent. Repairs, 10%. And your CapEx, 5%. Now, hold on, wait a second. Why is property management, vacancy, and repairs more expensive than before? Well, that's because, remember, we are calculating the costs, the operating expenses, according to the rental income. So just because we got it for cheaper, as we raise the rents, the money we put away to protect the property is more expensive. So that's just the way we run the numbers. Taxes and insurance are going to stay the same because those don't change. Now let's see how much operating expenses we have per month. So now we have $2,227.48 per month in operating expenses. Pretty darn close to before, but you gotta understand we got it for cheaper and we raised the rents, so that's pretty good that it's close. So now let's see if we're cash flow positive. Ooh, we're negative $27.48. So even if we bought the property for $25,000 less and upped the rents both by $200, you can still see we'd barely be even breaking even, if that. And then let's see how much our cap rate and ROI. Again, they're pretty trash. You don't want a negative return on your money. That's business 101. So a quick way, instead, what if you don't want to do all that? A quick way that you can see whether or not a property is gonna be a good investment and it's worth investigating further. If your gross scheduled rent per month is 1% of the purchase price, it's probably worth investigating more. For instance, let's say, so 1,100 and 1,100, what's that? 2,200, right? So let's say it's 2,200. That's our gross scheduled rent per month. If the asking price for this property was about $220,000, then this would probably be a pretty darn good deal. So right now in this crazy market, that's really not common at all. But if you could find something like that, chances are it's probably a good deal and it's worth investigating more. So that's just kind of a quick percentage that you can look at to see whether or not the property is worth investigating, because right now I could tell you, let me just show you, this is our recent multifamily market in Tucson. You can see all the negative cash flow. It's just really hard to come by anything positive. And that's just the market we're in right now. Not to say there aren't deals or you can't make deals happen. That's just what we're facing right now with properties active on the MLS. So that is pretty much all I do when I analyze a property. If you guys have any questions about this, or you want to deep dive further into it, I don't know, comment down below. Ask questions. I kind of went through it quickly, but I hope that you got some value out of that and you understand what I'm doing, because this process can take a long time to understand. It took me like 2 years to even get this down and really understand what each and everything was. I could go into NOI and ROI and all those different calculations, but that could take a very long time. So I just wanted to show you guys how to kind of quickly run through a property, see if it's worth investigating even more. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. If you guys liked the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. If you didn't like it, dislike it, and let me know down in the comments. But anyways, that's going to do it for this one. My name is Kate Olaf, and I will see you in the next one.